Best bet. Faxing is dead at this point. It used to be supported, built into the operating system, but
That's what I thought.
yeah, it's taken out. At this point, if you really need to fax somebody, then I would suggest go checking out efax.com at this point.
It's interesting. There were some hospitals we're still having to do some stuff with in Chicago, and they only accept faxes. They don't accept scans. So
Yeah,
that's why I've still got a fax machine in the basement. I'm trying to get rid of that.
yeah. I have in the last couple of weeks encountered two clients that are both getting rid of their fax lines that cost them about $20 or $30 a month for that fax line, and they're saving $360 a year. I'm sorry that you're having to deal with that with a company that only accepts faxes. That is kind of strange, but that's, I guess, it's not completely unheard of, I suppose. Yeah, go ahead.
These are just very minor questions. My internet was out for a week. And for some reason on Marcia's computer, we kept getting the Word document would come up and say you have to reinstall and put your new numbers in. I put the numbers in, it wouldn't accept it. And finally one day it did accept it. Did that have anything to do with the internet going out?
Yeah, it possibly did, depending on what version of Microsoft Office you're using, 2004, 2008, 2011, and now 2013's versions. 2011 and 2013 are basically the same thing. They've gone to a subscription model now. But with all that being said, earlier versions, I believe 2004, 2008, did not require internet connections to authorize. In other words, when Microsoft shipped it, they shipped a algorithm that if you put the right number in and set of letters and numbers that fit their algorithm, or maybe I'm not saying exactly right, it qualified the program. But I think in 2011 you had to be connected to the internet because they had to call up and register that number. So it is very possible that if you didn't have an internet connection during that time and you tried to register the product, that it would fail.
This is one that had already been registered.
Yeah.
We've been using it since you were here a couple months ago.
And
all of a sudden it made us re-register.
were you offline for a long period of time?
I was offline for a week, and I was just wondering if
That might there may be, and again, Microsoft Office is kind of being challenged by a lot of other up and coming programs, but so I don't put my hands on it as much as I used to, but it's very possible. I kind of preface that by saying it's very possible that Office could have a script in that says, "Hey, every week call up and check this number," which it would not surprise me at all if I wouldn't put it past Microsoft at all for that. I'm going to jump over to Daryl here. You're welcome to hang around, Alan. I'm just going to go round robin, and when I get finished, I'll start back at the top and keep on going. So stay as long as you like. Leave when you want. Daryl, what have you got for us this evening?
Good evening, Scotty. On my Google Mail,
Yeah.
when I forward a piece of mail or forward a forwarded piece of mail, it puts these vertical lines on the left-hand side.
That's right.
Is there a setting in the real Google Mail that can get rid of that?
Well, that's a feature of Apple's mail program. So if I look at that, and let me try to find something that I can dig through my own and look. But what that's doing, and it's colorizing it. So what you can do within Apple's mail program is you can colorize the responses. First response is blue, second response is red, third response is green, that kind of thing. And that's what those lines are doing, is as you glance at them, and I'm trying to pull up a piece of email that wouldn't really give us a problem with other people's... The quotes, well, if I send you an email that was quoted by several other people, then you can't really delete that. But if you send it on to me from somebody else, then you could delete all the quoted text. I'm trying to find a conversation that I might have had with somebody that would be an ongoing quote, quote, quote kind of thing, without revealing people's private information. I'm not seeing anything off the top of my head. But that's what those quote levels are. To change the colors, that's going to be in mail and in preferences. So let me see if I can pull something up here, and we'll take a look at those levels.
Change the colors. I want to get rid of it.
Let's look and see in preferences if there's something. I don't think there is. I don't think that you can, let's see, in composing, if you can include, okay, right here it is. in the settings, Daryl, if you go to mail and then go to the composing area of settings, you do have the ability to not include quoting the text when you do a reply yourself. So if you are part of a series that 7 other people had a conversation with, it gets to you, and then you're going to forward that. Well, forwarding is different than responding. If you're forwarding, obviously you're forwarding the message that you got. But if you're replying to, you can choose not to quote that text. And that's in that setting right there.
Proposing I take that off.
I would say uncheck that and see how that acts for you. Let's take a look while we're at it here. There's
What
your...
about the one that says increase quota level?
I don't know. I honestly don't know what that does. But if you Google it, I'm sure that somebody's answered that question. So I don't know what increasing the quote level does. I've never dug down, but play around with it. Over here in fonts and colors, this is where you would change your different levels colors. And you could say just don't even color it at all. Just make it all the same blue, black, green, whatever you want it to be. Daryl, did you have a follow-up?
No, that's it for now.
All right, we're going to move over to Joan. Joan, what say you this evening?
Everything you did was great, but I still have to manually get into Wi-Fi on my MacBook Pro.
Okay. I just wrote a little article to help people out on my site earlier today. I mean, not an article, just a little answer. Someone else was having that same problem. So you might want to go, when you get a chance, go to my answers section, and there's an area there to reorder. It's the top one right now, reordering your wireless networks. We probably did this while you were here, while I was there with you before, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to go in and make sure that the one that you want is at the top of the order. And as it's basically, I'm just regurgitating what I've written here. You want to, how should I say, delete the ones that you don't need. So make sure that you've gone through. And I have some instructions on how to do that on the website there on that. I did get that article that you sent to me that, yeah, Apple's having problems with their Mail app. So hopefully they'll have an update on that pretty soon. So
They had one and it didn't help.
well, I'm sure they have top men working on it. Did you ever see the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark when they, Indiana Jones says to the FBI agents or whatever, he says, "Well, who's working on this? Who is solving this problem?" And they say, "We have top men." And he said, "What top men?" And the FBI says, "Top men." In other words, I'm sure there are people at Apple in the catacombs trying to solve this mail issue where it's not retrieving mail. So hopefully it'll get worked out, because there are some people, obviously, and it sounds like Gmail, and I've heard other clients say that they had to do the same thing. So you're not alone. Did you have a follow-up?
No, I just wish I could just turn my thing on and have it, get to the internet. All our other computers do. It's just the MacBook Pro, which is weird.
Yep, I understand. Well, like I said, I've got that set of instructions that you can walk through there and see if that will take it off. Let's jump over to Mark. Mark, what have you got this evening?
Hey, Scotty. Can you see me here?
Yeah, well, yeah.
A couple questions. You had set up this iTunes match.
Yeah, how'd that go?
It's still running. It's still uploading remaining songs and artwork, or like, I don't know, 36 hours later.
Okay, are you on Time Warner or Bell's AT&T?
AT&T.
What could very possibly have happened, if you have a lot of original content, it's possible. There are several different possibilities here. One possibility is that AT&T has throttled you, and your upload speed is abysmal at this point. So if you are downloading lots of stuff or uploading lots of stuff, and in your case uploading, AT&T, and they're known to do this, I wouldn't suspect it as much with Time Warner, but AT&T sometimes will say, wait a minute, why does this person have all this activity? We're going to throttle them. So one of the things you could check is, what is my upload speed? So if you go to speedtest.net, I have a link to it in my answer sections, just to check what the speed of there are two types of speed. There's upload speed and there's download speed. Don't do it while you're on the session with me right now, because it wouldn't be a very good test. But if you check that out, in general, and this is just real general terms I'm saying, you have your upload and download. Download typical speed in Charlotte is 12 to 15 with a Time Warner cable modem. With AT&T modems, I expect it to be a little bit less, maybe 9 or 10 is typical. But upload speed is maybe 1 if you're good. If your upload speed, Mark, is like 0.2, then you might want to Well, there might not be anything you can do if that's just your upload speed. But the conversation that iTunes right now in your iTunes library is having with the internet is both download and upload. So if you're watching a YouTube video and it's streaming down, no problem. But your iTunes library, part of it, a large part of it, is going up to the internet. So that's all about upload speed. So check your upload speed at speedtest.net and see what that's like. Like I said, if it's 1, there's a little speedometer that it'll give a test to. If I tried to run it right now with us doing this video conference, I wouldn't get good results. But if your upload speed is about 1, then actually you should be kind of happy. If it's 0.2 or anywhere way below 1, then something's kind of wrong. The other thing is you might just want to quit iTunes and restart iTunes. The engineers designed it so you could stop it and restart it whenever that's still in that process. So have you tried to quit iTunes and restart it yet?
I have just shut the program down and load it back up afterwards. Is that yours?
Yeah, and even if you shut the program down and run that speed test, you might try restarting your modem too to see if maybe that'll help your speed a little bit. Probably won't, but it might, especially if they're throttling you. And then jump back in, and iTunes Match will pick up where it left off. And you will see iTunes Match run quite often. Whenever you open up iTunes Match will say, "Okay, we're looking at the changes that you've made."
Okay.
All right. Another test to do is to go over to your iOS device, iPad, iPhone, turn on iTunes Match. In other words, go ahead and turn it on. Even though the process doesn't seem to have finished, I'm willing to bet that the process is finished. Turn it on your iPhone or your iPad and see if that music falls down, if the inventory list falls down, as we talked about. Because I'm willing to bet you're going to see some of that music listed.
Yeah, we haven't turned on that switch yet. I was waiting for this to finish, but we can try that.
Yeah, I'd say go ahead and do it. Quit. If you want to restart your Mac, you could, but I have a feeling it's probably just kind of hung in the process, but it will self-heal as soon as you quit, restart, that kind of thing. But also check that upload speed on the internet speed, because that's a potential too, that AT&T said, wait, hold on, why is he using this much? We're going to slow him down. That's possible.
Okay.
I've seen it before. Alan, let's jump back over to you. Actually, before I do, Alan, I wanted to offer Mark another follow-up. Did you have a follow-up question you wanted to hit, Mark?
Yeah, so we put all of those accounts on one name. My wife wants to know how we can move the apps that were on her iPad over to the iPhone. I don't think they move automatically. I think you're saying new ones that we download will show up on both, but not the old ones.
Right. So let me kind of fill the people that are listening in on the situation. Mark has a large category of content that he's purchased, and his wife has a large category of content, be it songs, music, apps, or whatever, that she's purchased. And unfortunately, they've purchased those on separate Apple IDs because maybe they had separate lives before they got married, or they just had different Apple IDs. And what they want to do is be able to kind of pull from the same pool. So what your wife needs to do, Mark, is connect her device to iTunes. And when she connects it to iTunes, she's going to go to transfer purchases. And remember, I said a couple of times the other day when we worked together, let me see if I can open up iTunes while I'm talking to you here to show you. I'm trying to think. Oh, I said if you wanted to share that content in the future, a computer has to be involved. So in order to get the apps that she purchased onto your device, or for you to get the apps, or for her to get the apps that you purchased or the music that you purchased onto her device, you connect your phone to iTunes, and then under the file or one of these up here, it's going to say transfer purchases. And basically, it's going to say iTunes, or go up to that phone and pull off everything that was purchased. So let's go find where that is. Maybe it's under store. It's in here somewhere.
I think it might be under iTunes.
It is. It might not show up unless you actually connect your phone. I believe I think it only shows up if
you go to devices, is that it? Under file devices, maybe?
Yeah, there it is right there, transfer purchases. I don't have my phone connected. My phone's actually hardwired to another computer over here at the moment. But yeah, that will show up, and then transfer those purchases. And then what happens is you will have a reservoir of apps that were purchased by yourself, by your wife. Another way that you could do this, Mark, is to log into her account using her iTunes. So if I go into iTunes Store right now and I log in as someone else, let's say I knew yours and I logged in as you, I could download all of that content. So I actually don't have to have the phone. And there are probably apps that she downloaded that are not on her phone. So this might be a smart way to do it as well. So you go to the Apple or the iTunes, go into the iTunes store, and then log in as yourself. Log in as her in this case. Look at her purchased items, and then you can download all purchased items onto your device, your computer, that is.
Okay, so then to get it onto her iPhone, which is the drill here, then you gotta plug her iPhone in.
Right. Then you have to hardwire that iPhone and choose what apps you want to move over.
You move those manually one by one.
Yes. Yeah, I'll say this. I do not, by any means, I do not like Apple's new syncing area of apps when you plug your phone up. And I don't have, like I said, I don't have this phone plugged up to that. But they basically have 4 choices now in the apps section of your phone. Remove, will remove, install, will install. And it's extremely confusing. I honestly don't even have the brain power to explain it, but you got to get in there and play around with it a little bit. It's not logical. What they should have done, and sometimes Apple over engineers things a little bit, but what they should have done is said, here's the app, on the phone or off the phone, and that's all they needed to do. But instead, what they said is, all right, it's on there, but we'll take it off. It's off there, but we'll put it back on. Or it's on there and we won't do anything with it, or it's not on there and we won't do anything with it. I don't need all that. Just tell me whether you put it on or off. So when you go into iTunes and you connect your device, select it over in the left-hand column, go across the top and select apps, which I'm not looking at right now because I don't have a device connected, and then choose those apps that you want that were from her account to put onto your phone. Does that make sense?
I think so. I'll try it out.
All right, I'm going to jump back up to Alan. Alan, did you have a follow-up or another issue you wanted to hit?
I have 2 really quick questions. One of them it's more of an annoyance. On my iPhone, every day, once or twice, I get this message that says, "What is your password for my AOL account?" Yet not having it doesn't seem to do anything because all the mail is coming in normally.
Okay.
You know, and even if I don't put it in, it doesn't seem to affect anything. It's just that this message just keeps popping up.
All right.
Several times a day.
This actually could be relevant to what Mark was talking about before. All of us in the world have multiple Apple IDs. So, Alan, do you feel that this password that it's requesting is specific to an actual AOL email account that you have set up on your phone? Or could it be more likely that this password is you're being prompted for an Apple ID password that some apps that you may have bought under that AOL email address that you no longer have are still on your phone? In other words, is this password request related to email, or do you think it's related to purchases that you've made under that identity in the past?
I don't remember buying anything on AOL for my iPhone, but
I wouldn't doubt if you had, though. And one of the ways that you can find out is if you open up your iTunes library, and I just closed mine a second ago, but if you open up your iTunes library, I tell you this, Alan, and I say this to a lot of people, I would be surprised if you only had one Apple ID. The large majority of people that I deal with, including myself, have more than one Apple ID. And unfortunately, there is no area that Apple gives us to merge purchases that you made under this ID with that ID. And I tell people that having an old Apple ID is kind of like having a divorce on your record. If you start seeing somebody else, you have to disclose that. You can't hide that. So all of you, any old purchases that you've made.
the message though says ASJJR1@AOL.com. You know, so
See, the thing is that's not really conclusive to me. That could be your email, or that could be the AOL. That could be the AOL account. If I look through my music and I click on one and I go Command I, that tells me where I got that song or how I got that song. In this case, this song is not a purchased song. That's my own personal song. So if I go down a little bit farther, eventually I'm going to find some music that I purchased, and it would show me. And let me do it under apps.
this may be something my son did too. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Well, one way to solve it is to take the AOL email address off of your phone. And then what that will do is that will split that problem into half. If it was an email issue, then the problem's not going to come back. But if you still see that password come back, then that means that you bought content under that AOL email address long ago. And I say this every day. It's not an email address as far as Apple's concerned. It's a set of letters that happens to look like an email address to you and me. Just like we could get a social security number and a phone number mixed up because they're real similar to each other, kind of. AOL was the very first Apple ID that we ever had. In 2001, whenever they started the App Store, they joined forces with AOL. So anybody that had an AOL address had an Apple ID right off the bat. It can be very confusing. But if you wanted to find out for sure, Alan, go into iTunes, click on an app in the app section and go Command-I, and do it for about 7 or 8 or 10 different apps in different areas. And what you'll see, most likely you'll find that one app was purchased under one email address and another app was purchased under another email address. And as I was talking to Mark about it the other day, I'll do Dropbox right now. Command-I, this was purchased under sales@mac.com. What you'll probably find is that one was purchased under maybe one of these AOL email addresses in the past. And as long as you keep that app in your life, when it requires an update, it's going to ask you for that password. Not to the AOL email address, but to the Apple ID account.
I understand it now.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's go back over to...
Question,
So, yeah, Alan, did you have... yeah, go ahead, Alan. Did you have another follow-up?
This is one you answer every time you come over to my house.
Okay.
But I'm getting this message again for some draft emails. It cannot send message using server smtp.aol.com, and then it lists 3 different ones. One says PROFF outgoing, AOL.com, me.com.
Okay.
I think I need to go in and make sure the passwords are correct. I wasn't sure where to do it.
Yeah, that's right. That's most likely what's happening is oftentimes, and everybody, I'm not saying that you've made this mistake, but this is a common mistake that people do make. When you change a password, we think that our technology is so great that the passwords just propagate through all our devices. But what we have to do when we change a password on one device, we have to go to every single device and tell it. So it may be left over on this device that you may have changed an AOL password in the past. So to fix that, a couple different ways to do it. If you go into your mail settings, and I'm recording this so you can go back and watch this later if I go too fast, but in your mail settings, if you go under the word mail and then preferences, we'll see a list of the accounts that you have under accounts. Once you get there, one thing you could do, because AOL is an IMAP email address, you could just select the AOL account, delete it, and then re-add it again. That's one thing you could do. The other thing you could do, if you want to get your hands a little bit more dirty and do it manually, there are actually 2 areas in these little settings that AOL is expecting the correct password to be. The incoming, the outgoing. The incoming area is right there on the front screen under incoming mail server. But just because you put the correct password here doesn't mean that the outgoing area knows the password. So, like I said, if you just delete it and re-add it, this takes care of it. But if you'd rather do it the manual way, change the password here, but then under outgoing mail server, click on it, find the AOL server, or what you might do is
Where
go...
you get outgoing?
Sorry,
Oh,
it's
I
right...
see it.
Yeah, it's right below it. Click on the outgoing server list, and then go Edit SMTP Server List. If you select that, you will see the list of all the different servers that you have. So when you select one of those servers under Advanced, that will reveal the outgoing area for passwords. It's a little complicated.
No, that is what the problem is, because they're showing up in my draft, unable to be sent out.
Yeah.
So I've only changed it once. I've only changed them on the incoming.
Try that. And like I said, one easy way to avoid it is just select the account, delete it, and then re-add it again, and it will take care of all that in the background. Lastly, one more thing while I'm talking about AOL. If we go back, and this is for a lot of stuff, and Joan, you might try playing around with this yourself with that Gmail issue you're having. Maybe this will help. If you go into Preferences and under Mail, and you select the account in Mailbox Behaviors, if it's an IMAP account, look what I've got set up right now on this Gmail account. I have it set to say, hey, store the draft messages on the server. In other words, if I start writing you an email and I get 3 sentences in, oh, we're going to save a draft to the server, and then I write another sentence, oh, we're going to save a draft to the server. I've also got it set to store junk messages on the server, to store my sent messages. Well, sent messages makes a little bit of sense if I'm a highfalutin executive and I go to California and I want to prove to the guy that I'm sitting across the table from negotiating with that I sent him that email. That's great, but I'm not that important. So I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to uncheck these. I don't care to store my drafts on the server. I'm not that busy in my life that I want to start an email on this device, put it away, and go pick it up on that device. It's cool, but I've just never done it. So I would rather uncheck that because the less my mail client is talking to the server, the better, in my opinion, what I've found. So if you uncheck those, it's just less of a conversation that's happening between your mail client and the server, and oftentimes things go a little bit more smoothly, especially in AOL. So if I have an AOL account set up, I'm definitely turning those things off because I just don't, AOL is fragile as it is.
Mail preferences?
Yes, yeah. Mail preferences, go to accounts, and it's mailbox behaviors. I've pointed that out in my answer section a lot of times as well. Let's go over back to Daryl. Daryl, what did you have?
Scotty, in my mail, we're talking about mail a lot tonight, I guess.
Yep.
When I send a message, I get a piece of email and I reply to it. When I send it, it shows up in my received email on top of the one that I just received. Is that a setting that I've got? You understand what I'm saying? Am I saying it right?
Yes, I think you may be pointing to the all mail folder. Are you looking in the all mail folder, Daryl? Do you know what I'm talking about?
It says inbox.
Okay. Can you show me an exact replica of that issue if we jump over and look at your screen right now?
I'd be glad to.
All right. Let's see, change presenter. We may have talked about this last week where we went to gmail.com, or maybe I was talking this to somebody else, but Gmail has its own way of handling mail, and Apple has its own way of handling mail. And I wish that they talked better to each other, but they don't all the time. If
Millie sent me this lower email right here,
yeah, okay,
and I responded to it.
yeah.
And yet it's showing up here in my TIG mail.
Okay, and that's because right now you have it set to sort of threaded. So in other words, if you look at these, that's showing you the threaded message. That's all still the same conversation. She talked about winter storms, and then you responded to winter storms. So that makes sense that you have threaded messages turned on. If you turn that threaded messages off, you would not see that block of this email, and then that email. You would only see the one email that you're looking at. That might help a little bit.
Where is that?
Oh gosh.
Right there?
Organized by conversation. Yeah, uncheck that. Conversations, that's what they call. Yeah, uncheck that. Select it and it should uncheck. Now, click on that same email and you'll only see the one email that's there. Does that help you? Is that what you wanted?
I understand why it's there now. Thank you.
Okay. One more thing about conversations. I'm going to show you something while you're here, and this is great for everyone. While we're looking at Daryl's email, Daryl, go up to View in the menu bar. Under View, select Customize Toolbar. Now, when you get to Customize Toolbar, you have a button there that says Conversations. Select Conversations, third line, last item. Pull Conversations up into the toolbar of the Mail app about 4 inches or so, and then drop it in the menu bar of the Mail app. So click and drag that up.
Right here.
There you go. Keep going and keep going a little bit farther. Got to get it all the way up there. There you go. Let go. All right. Now you don't have to go to that menu item. You've got it. So you can say done on that. So now just so we see, Daryl has the ability to go to Conversations or just List Form. So notice he just clicked it. And when he clicked it, don't do anything else, Daryl. But when he clicked it, notice the Fairfield reservation that he's got right above the email he has selected. And there's a number 3 there. And I don't want you to reveal that information. We'll just see what we've got there. You don't have to click on it. But that 3 means that 3 times he has gone back and forth with this. He's had a conversation with this particular reservation. So there's the number 3 there. That also carries over to your iOS devices. Personally, I don't really like that very much. I would rather see the email chronologically in the order that it came to me, like we've done for the last 20 years. So if he goes up and he selects no conversations, that turns the conversations off, and now the conversation that he had with Fairfield is spread out throughout the different times that he got the emails. So I just wanted to kind of take that time and point that out. We've probably said that before, but
Conversations under what again?
you look at View in Mail, go down to customize toolbar, and then you can drag the conversations button up into the Mail app, and then you have the ability, thank you, Daryl, that's perfect. And then you have the ability just to get to it really quickly. On your iOS device, I will jump back over and show you real quick. Give me a second. You should see my screen in just a moment. You see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so you'll go to settings. When you go to settings, you go to mail contacts and calendars. And then when you scroll down a little bit, you'll see it says organized by thread. This is they use the word conversations on the computer. They use the word threading on the iPhone. So that terminology needed to be exactly the same across, but the left hand didn't know that the right hand was using it. But if you see that organized by thread, then your emails are grouped into those conversations. So you just choose whichever way you like it to be the best. That's all I wanted to point out. But that's a feature that came from iOS into Apple's mail program on the computer, and it can be a little bothersome. Let's go to Joan. Joan, did you have another issue we needed to address?
I have a follow-up.
No, I was just working on my iPhone to change that because I don't like that either. I'd rather see everything chronologically.
Daryl had a follow-up. Daryl, what did you need?
Scotty, I'm still having, it's not an issue. It's just a conflicting thing with my Macintosh HD Get Info.
Oh.
And the new program that you put me on last week called
Menu meters, right. And is menu meters responding, giving you the same backwards?
No,
No.
giving me different.
Oh. Okay. So
See it?
I don't see it. I canceled it off your screen. Let's jump back over and take a look at that. So Daryl, I'm going to send a message to look at your screen again. So we'll see that in just a second. Allow that. Okay, so you have a 1,000 gig drive or a terabyte drive. You have 550 available, and you've used 450 or so. In menu meters, you have the hard drive area. Okay. Oh, it's a discrepancy there. I see. All right. Here's what I'd like you to do, Daryl. You have a little piece of homework, and this little piece of homework is that you're going to zap the parameter RAM. All right. If you've ever zapped the parameter RAM, it's a fun little thing to do, and here's what you're going to do. There are features of the Mac that are held in a short-term RAM that, and this is one of them. Icons on the desktop, for instance, are in this parameter RAM. So what I want you to do, Daryl, is clean out the parameter RAM, and here's how you're going to do it. You're going to take one hand with your keyboard. You're going to hold down the P and R key, and you're not going to do it right now, Daryl, because this requires a restart. You're going to hold the P, R key, and also Command and Option at the same time. So that's a 4-finger command. PR, Command Option. Command Option PR for parameter RAM. After you do that, you're going to turn your computer off first. I should have said this earlier. And I'm sure that you can find this answer in my answer section too if you search for parameter RAM. Turn your computer off first. After you've turned the computer off, hold down the PR and Command Option key with one hand. Turn the computer back on. When you turn the computer back on, the computer's going to chime like it always does because it just passed what's called the post test. Then keep holding it down until it chimes a second time. The chime the second time will be a little quieter than the first time because in resetting the parameter RAM, you also drop the volume down to what Apple considers normal level versus all the way full up. Keep holding that PR Command Option key and let the chime sound a third time. After the chime has rung a third time, let go. The computer will start up in a normal manner and then go check those settings out again and see if that helps. I can't guarantee, but that's the next thing that I would try.
Okay.
Is that something you should do periodically anyway?
Not really. I mean, if you want to. And now, Alan, I know something about you the others don't know, and that is that Alan is a very avid reader of a lot of Mac technical magazines, and I'm sure that you've probably read some magazine articles that have said, hey, it would be a good idea to do that from time to time. That's more of a mentality from OS 9 back in the old days. That's something you did need to do all the time, and it's really just a carryover into OS 10 these days. I would only do it if you felt that there was a need to, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And when Daryl reboots his computer, he will notice that all of his icons on his desktop will have default. Like if you look at that PDF image on his desktop, and Daryl, you might not be seeing it right now because your GoToMeeting control panel is in front of it, but you have some PDF files on the behind there. Those PDF files have assumed the icon, they've created an icon for themselves of what the PDF file actually is. When he resets that parameter RAM, it's going to take those little thumbnails out and it's going to say PDF file. And then they will be regenerated within the next minute or so. But some people kind of get nervous when they see that. That's why I would say don't do it unless you have a problem. All right?
Scotty, I want you to notice that there's only 5 icons on my desktop.
That's awesome. When we go back to mine, you'll see I cleaned mine up. Mine's very clean today. Okay, I'm going to jump back over to Joan, and then we'll finish up with Mark. Joan, did you have a follow-up? No?
Nope, same 2 problems they had to work on.
All right, and then Mark, did you have you quit iTunes and restarted, or tell me, did you have another issue?
I did that, and I turned on the match program. So what should be happening now? I see some of my music files now have the cloud, others don't, and it hasn't cleared up much of any space on my iPad drive.
So you turned those off. Did it give you the warning, Mark, when you turned it off that it would remove the music?
Yeah, that it was gonna. Yeah, it sure did. And I'm just kind of going through and looking at various albums. Some have the cloud download, others just look like normal files, like they did before.
Part of that iCloud transition over on the iPad is not going to fully resolve until iTunes, the central command in your case, Mark, with iTunes Match is that computer and how iTunes is talking to your server. In other words, the laptop is in control of everything. So we can really better judge what's happening on the iPad after iTunes has completely finished its conversation. Really, all we see here is it's kind of hard to see with the light. But yeah, I see that you've got some that are there and some that are it looks like that they're there and some that are not. One of the things that you might do, Mark, is plug that iPad up to iTunes, go into the music setting, and just delete all the music off of it. Turn off iTunes Match on the iPad. In other words, go in and say remove all the music within iTunes and make sure that gets cleared off. Because I'm going to trust that iTunes is going to take it off. I'm not exactly going to trust that iCloud is just going to free that space up. So you follow what I'm saying?
So plug it in, remove all the files actually off of the iPad, and then turn iTunes Match back on and have it come back down.
Right, because what should happen then is that bar of usage that you have in the bottom of iTunes, it should shrink down after you deselect the music that you've chosen. In other words, you've unchosen the music. That should free up that space.
Should I turn off Match before I plug it in and delete?
Yeah, why don't you do that? Yeah, that's a good idea. Joining us this evening, we have from Parts Unknown, Emma Day. Emma Day, what can we do for you this evening?
I was trying to get on earlier. I'm going to go back and listen to this on the other thing, but the recording. But I wanted to ask you, I've been trying to download movies from the iPhoto and from the flip camera and make a disc.
Okay.
And I don't exactly understand what to do.
Okay. All right. So what I'm hearing you say you want to do is you have some movies that you've shot on a flip camera. You have some movies that maybe you took with your iPhone, and some of those movies are inside iPhoto. I'm betting that the videos that you took with your flip camera are probably not inside iPhoto right now. Is that correct?
Well, it has a flip camera app on there, and when I hit them, they do, but they're not connected or joined or anything, so I'm not sure what to do. And some I've joined, but I don't know where to get them on a disc.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce 2 new ideas into your life, Emma Day, and that is when it comes to what your ultimate goal, Emma Day, is that you want to burn a DVD. That's what you're telling me right now, right? And you want to be able to hand that DVD to... Oh, let me back up for a moment. Is your reasoning to burn this DVD because you want to give it to someone so that they can put it into their DVD player and watch it? Or are you thinking, I just need to store these?
I want to save it, and I'd like to save it on my computer and a DVD, but I'm afraid if I try to save it on my computer, I might run out of room.
All right, that's a good point. But let me back up and I'm going to make sure that I get this answer correct because you didn't answer my question yet, really. Is your main motivation to burn a DVD so that you can hand that DVD to someone else to watch it, or is it so that you have a medium to store it on?
Well, I want to save it, and I'd like to burn it. So, is there a difference?
Well, I'm
in
gonna-
saving it and burning it.
Yes, I'm going to back up a second and I'm going to tell you that in 2014, you're going to put a lot of effort, and I just had this conversation with my family the other day and they looked at me like I was crazy. And my mother still records things on a VHS. My mother lives in VHS players. She has, and she'd be mad if she heard me say this to people, she has a reservoir in her home. She has a room with 7 unopened VHS boxes of VHS players, so that for the rest of her life, she figures that's going to make her for the rest of her life. So she never has to learn to use DVDs, and so she never has to learn to use other methods of doing things. Imade, you are not my mother, though. You are more forward thinking, and you are an aggressive person, and you're cutting edge, and I know that about you. So what I'm going to say to start, and then I'll answer your question, is don't invest a whole lot of work into DVDs, because as you know, whether you want to admit it or not, DVDs are going away. The ability to put a round disc into something is kind of on its way out. So what you want is a way to see these things that you don't have to rely on DVDs. But at the same time, what are you going to rely on? Well, as long as they're digitized, digital is not going away. We're going to have hard drives in our life for quite some time. And there's maybe one more step that we're going to take, and that is uploading our video to the internet where somebody else stores it. And you know as well as anybody that I have probably recorded 400 hours of these town halls over the last 4 years, and they're all up on YouTube. YouTube is holding 400 hours of my stuff. Now, they have no obligation to keep it. They might send me an email tomorrow saying, dude, you have 400 hours. We're going to delete 2011 through 2013. So you still always need a digital copy of your video if you care about it. But here's the thing, Imade, I'm going to introduce something to you here. If you want to burn this video onto a DVD, you have to use something that other people who just bought a brand new computer don't have. You have to use a program that's on your computer called iDVD. iDVD is a DVD authoring program that allows a user to take content, and listen to this, to take video content that was living inside iMovie and put it onto a DVD. Now, I just said 2 different programs, iMovie and iDVD. Now, if you go out and you buy a new computer today, the MacBook Air or the latest, greatest MacBook Pro, it's not going to have iDVD on it. Apple is not supporting iDVD anymore. They're not paying anybody on Apple's payroll to write or improve or fix anything in iDVD, because Apple's taken the stance that DVDs are done. So they're not even selling computers with DVD players anymore. But Imade, you want to burn a DVD. And you have the right to do that because you have an old computer. But chances are, those movies that you're talking about that are in iPhoto and you have some in a folder called Flip Video, what those need to do is they need to be seen in iMovie. If you want to travel down this road. If you want to travel down this road, you got to get them into iMovie. Now, the nice thing is that the videos that you have in iPhoto are recognized by iMovie already. So you don't have to move those. iMovie will see those. But the Flip videos that are sitting in a folder have to be imported into iMovie. Now, let me just give you the bone structure of how this works. Once you open up iMovie, I'm not going to show you right now because my computer would be too slow, but I'm just going to, if you open up iMovie, you would, under the top, you would select Import Movies. You would point iMovie to import those movies into iMovie, and then you arrange them the way you want them to be, beginning, middle, end, if you want some titles, and then there's a little button that says Send it to iDVD. That movie then moves over to iDVD, where then you hit burn. iMovie will not burn the DVD. iPhoto will not burn the DVD. The only thing that will actually burn a DVD that you could put in a DVD player and watch is iDVD. And you have it, I have it, Joan just bought a new computer, she doesn't have it. So does that give you an idea of kind of what you're going to be looking at doing, Imade, if you choose that option?
I understand what you say, but how do you save your movies
Okay,
if you can't burn?
great question. So if I don't want to go through all that trouble to put it on a dying media that in 3 or 4 years we won't have anyway, then how do I save them? As long as I have a hard drive that's big enough, and actually, Imade, we updated your hard drive recently, and now you have a terabyte hard drive internally. So because you have a very large hard drive, in your case, Imade, don't worry about space, because we gave you 2/3 more space just recently. So you're not going to run out of hard drive space anytime soon. So you're in good shape. For people that have MacBook Airs and for people that have smaller computers with smaller hard drives, they have to worry about where they store that video. And you used to have to worry about it, Imade, because you had a smaller hard drive. But for those people, they have to go out and buy an external hard drive that I call a media drive. They have to move that important stuff over to that media drive, and then they have to back that media drive up. But Imade, you don't have to worry about that because internally you have plenty of space because we just updated your hard drive to a 1 terabyte several weeks ago.
But aren't I gonna do it before I die? I'm gonna have to do it somewhere, save it somewhere, that someone can access it.
Absolutely.
Is that down the road?
This is what I said to my family the other day because they were going through this exact same problem. They wanted to burn DVDs. And I said, well, why don't you just, and these are old family old family movies that they shot on something and they want to put all this through this. I said, well, why don't you just upload them to YouTube? You have copies of them on your computer. They had gotten them onto the computer. I said, why don't you just upload them to YouTube and then we'll privatize the channel. So if you want to see youtube.com/salesfamily, you'd have to put a password in to be able to see it. And that's, in my opinion, the better way to go. Still keep a copy of it. Still keep a digital copy of it. And if you want to, still keep the VHS if you want. That's fine. But if you push it up to YouTube, then I can get to it on my Roku, or I can get to it on my Apple TV, or you can get to it on your iOS device, or he can get to it on his computer. So if you have a digital copy of it, the only people that can see it are the people that are sitting in front of it right then and there. But if you post it up to the internet, and you can even privatize it, make it private, then nobody can see it except for the people you allow. And it will be up there until Google decides to take it down.
Scotty, I think this summer I'm sorry.
Go
I think
ahead.
you showed me a little.
Go ahead, Alan.
I thought you showed me a little workaround. I had an iMovie I wanted to put on a DVD, and I couldn't get it there. And what I did, I put it to my desktop in a folder, and then I just inserted a DVD in my computer, was able to move it to it, and
Yes.
had to give it to somebody who only wanted a DVD.
That's
I couldn't get it straight from iMovie to the DVD, but I could get it to the desktop to the DVD.
That's right, but the language is in the detail. I mean, the details are in the language that you just used. If you have a video file and you put a DVD in, you can pull that video file and drop it onto the disk and select Burn Disk. Now you have a round disk that is storing a video file. You put that disk that's storing the video file into 99 DVD players, 99 of them are not going to play it. Or I should say, put it in 100 DVD players, 99 of the DVD players are not going to play it. Because now,
Those don't play on their computer.
that's right, you haven't authored that DVD. Because you know this, Alan, as you've dug around DVDs in the past, if you put a DVD in and you click it and you open it, there are two folders, a video TS and an audio TS folder. Well, that's a language that only DVD players speak. But the description that you just gave me was I put a DVD in and I drag a .mp4 file, a movie file. Yeah, now you've stored it, but that's not playable on a DVD. So if you go back, I challenge you, go back in this town hall in a couple of days in YouTube and listen to what I was saying when I described that. I said something along the lines that you're going to put into a DVD player that you want someone to watch on a DVD player, then you have to use iDVD. So yes, you can burn them onto a DVD to watch them through iDVD. You could burn them onto a DVD to store them, but that's ridiculous at this point. Just get yourself a hard drive and because a hard drive is going to hold 1,000 videos. A DVD might hold 4 videos. So you do the math, get yourself a hard drive.
What do you think about Google Drive as an alternative?
It's not enough space. Google Drive, Dropbox, a lot of SkyDrive, all that, they don't give you enough space. So if you want to buy more space, that's great. And right now, I think you can buy 100 gigs. Yahoo offers a terabyte of storage for free through Flickr these days. So the sizes of these online storages are getting bigger. But right now, it's not cheap. Dropbox is not cheap. It's like $50 for 100 gigs a year. That's kind of expensive to me for only 100 gigs. But nothing beats having a copy of it. But if you want to share it with the world, post it to YouTube. If you don't want people to see it, make a private area out of it. I wanted to jump back over to Mark. Mark, did you have a follow-up, an issue that you wanted to...
I ran that speed test, and my upload speed's about 1.5 Mbps.
That's good.
Doesn't seem too bad.
That's actually really good, yeah.
Any idea why? It's because I shut down iTunes. It's still running the iTunes match. It looks like it's going file by file right now.
Does it look like it's doing any... is it making any different progress since you cut it off and turned it back on?
Actually, the progress bar is further back than it was before.
That's okay, because what it might be doing is saying, okay, before we were 90% complete of 100%, now it's saying we are 10% complete of that remaining 10% that we had. So that's okay. Let's give it a little bit more time.
That progress bar has probably moved about, it's probably about 10% of the total bar.
I say patience is our best tool here on this one. Let's just let it ride and see how it goes.
How long do you think? Give it another few days?
2 days at the most. Alan, you turned on iTunes Match recently, didn't you?
No, I didn't, but your AT&T point has been written up in the Wall Street Journal a couple times about people complaining that they're doing exactly what you say when you're downloading a lot.
They're throttling.
They're shutting down what you can download.
Yeah,
There's a couple articles recently on that.
yeah.
So I bet you it's an AT&T issue.
I have a newsletter coming out in hopefully the next 24 hours. It's already written. I'm just having a friend of mine proofreading it right now. That's all about parenting on the internet, just technology. I have a lot of clients who have children that are 10, 11, 13, 14 years old, so it's really geared toward them. I think most of us here are not in that category tonight. But Alan, if you do read it, and you're actually kind of in that you're in that target market that I'm talking about. Actually, now that I think about it, I think your kids might be a little young. You've got your older one. In other words, you've got children that are on top and underneath, but not exactly in that range. But I do kind of do a little Wall Street Journal shout out to Walt Mossberg in it. So you'll have to read it and find out what I have to say about that there. But that's going to come out in hopefully the next 24 hours. While I'm sitting around doing a commercial, there's a link on the front page of my website to submit a review to Apple. And if you haven't, I would love that. I finally fixed that link. If you haven't lately, I would greatly appreciate you submitting one to them. I'll throw it in the bottom here of the notes of the GoToMeeting if you want to do that as well. But I'm going to be getting off of here. Let me throw that link in. That link was that review link was broken for quite some time, so it took me a while to fix it. But I'll put it up, and then you guys can click on it if you'd like. And let me see, get it there.
Or we could just go to your site, right?
Yeah, you can go to the front page of the site there. I'm just gonna throw it into the notes. I think I got it. And well, just go to the front page. Actually, there it is. If you want to click on that, you can submit a review. Other than that, I'm gonna get out of here, and I will see you guys again next time. Expect this to be up in the next couple of days, and that newsletter is on its way.
I just wanted to review what you said. You have to move movies from iTunes to iMovie. If you're going to put it from a flip camera, you put it in iMovie, and then you have to put it in an iDVD. Is that correct?
Yes, you have to choose import from iMovie. iMovie will ask you what folder do you want to import, and you point it to that flip folder. After those movies land in iMovie, then from iMovie, you can arrange it the way you'd like, make a little project out of it, and then you would say send to iDVD, which is within iMovie. That then goes to iDVD, which you can then burn. Now, if you want to skip that step, you could...
You can say send to...
YouTube.
Or you can say send to...
YouTube.
You know what?
You could send it to YouTube. You could publish it up to YouTube if you wanted. All right, I'm going to get out of here, guys. I'll talk to you guys again next week.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Submit that review.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Okay.
Good night, Joe.
Yours.